Cadet Reflex test malfunctioned. The human broke it. Part 1. The reflex testing chamber had been in use at the Galactic Naval Academy for over 300 years. In that time, it had tested cadets from 847 different species. Not once had it malfunctioned. Not once had anyone broken it. Stood outside the chamber door, watching the cadet ahead of him finish her test. She was, with those big compound eyes that could see in 7 different light spectrums at once. Her people could spot a threat from 3 miles away and react before most species even knew danger was near. The display screen showed her score, 92%. Excellent, but normal for her species. The door opened and she walked out looking pleased, nodded to her as he passed. "Good luck, human," she said. There was no meanness in her voice, just fact. Humans usually scored in the 60 to 70% range. It was respectable, average, nothing to be ashamed of when you were competing against species that had evolved on worlds far more dangerous than Earth. Stepped into the chamber. The door sealed behind him with a soft hiss. The room was empty except for him and the white walls. No furniture, no decorations, just open space and the faint hum of the machinery hidden behind those walls. "Cadet Human, serial number 7743H, he said. A voice responded from everywhere and nowhere. Identity confirmed, beginning standard reflex assessment, level 1. The test was simple in concept. Holographic threats would appear. He had to react to them. Dodge, block, counter. The system would measure how fast he moved, how accurate his responses were, how well he handled multiple threats at once. As the levels increased, the threats would come faster from more directions in more complex patterns. It started easy. A red sphere appeared in front of him, floating at chest height. It shot toward him at maybe 10 miles per hour, stepped aside. The sphere passed through where he'd been standing and vanished. Response time, 0.47 seconds, acceptable. More spheres appeared. Different colors, different speeds from different angles. Moved through them like he was dancing, his body flowing from one position to the next. Step, duck, lean, turn. Nothing touched him. Level 1 complete, advancing to level 2. The threats came faster now. Not just spheres but other shapes. Cubes, pyramids. They moved in curves instead of straight lines. Some came high, some low. Kept moving, his breathing steady and calm. Instructor Aura watched from the observation room outside. She was, with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished bronze. She'd been running these tests for 20 years. Humans always performed the same way. Decent reaction time, good spatial awareness, nothing spectacular. They were reliable soldiers but never the top of any class. Level 2 complete, advancing to level 3. Notice something odd. The threats were appearing faster, but they weren't surprising him. His hand was already moving before the shapes fully materialized. His foot was already shifting before he consciously registered where the next threat would come from. In the observation room, Aura's secondary arms tensed. The system monitor showed processor usage at 42%. That was high for level 3. Most cadets pushed it to maybe 25% at this stage. Level 3 complete, advancing to level 4. The holographic threats weren't simple shapes anymore. Now they looked like weapons, blades spinning through the air, projectiles that exploded if they hit the walls, energy beams that tracked his movement. The test was designed to simulate real combat conditions. His body moved faster, not in a rushed or panicked way, but with an efficiency that looked almost lazy. He'd turn his shoulder and a blade would miss by an inch. He'd drop to one knee and 3 beams would cross above his head. He'd roll forward and an explosion would bloom behind him. Level 4 complete, advancing to level 5. Impossible, Aura muttered. She'd seen talented cadets before. She'd trained warriors who went on to command fleets, but she'd never seen someone reach level 5 in their first test. Most cadets needed 3 or 4 attempts just to survive level 4. The system monitor now showed 61% processor usage. Level 5 complete, advancing to Level 6. Now Ara was standing, all four hands pressed against the observation window. Other instructors were gathering behind her, drawn by the unusual readings. "Is that a human?" one of them asked. "Yes," Ara said quietly. Inside the chamber was breathing harder now but still moving with that same strange grace. The threats were coming from every direction at once. Blades, bullets, energy weapons, explosive charges. The room had become a storm of violence and moved through it like water finding the spaces between raindrops. But something was wrong with the system. The display was showing error messages that Ara had never seen before. Level 6 complete, advancing to Level 7. "That's not possible," another instructor said. "Level 7 is rated for species with enhanced neural conductivity. Humans don't have that." The processor usage hit 78%. Didn't know what was happening outside. He only knew that the test felt wrong. The threats weren't surprising him anymore. He could feel them coming before they appeared, like pressure building in the air before a thunderstorm. His body moved and threats appeared in the space he just left. His hand reached out and found a holographic blade, catching it mid-flight before his eyes had even focused on it. Level 7 complete, advancing to Level 8. The system was struggling now. Ara could see it in the way the monitors flickered. The reflex chamber was designed to challenge any species in the known galaxy. It had tested beings with reaction times measured in microseconds. It had tested warriors whose nervous systems operated on quantum principles. It had never, ever needed more than 70% of its processing power. It was now running at 89%. "Sir," the junior technician said, his voice shaking, "the system is generating threats beyond safety protocols. It's trying to find his ceiling." "Override it," Ara ordered. "Shut it down." "I can't. It's locked me out. The AI is running autonomously." Inside the chamber felt the change. The threats weren't following patterns anymore. They weren't simulating combat scenarios. The system was just throwing everything it had at him, faster and faster, trying desperately to make him fail. A blade came at his throat. He wasn't looking at it. His hand moved anyway, deflecting it with the back of his wrist. An energy beam tracked toward his head. He was already dropping flat. Explosions blossomed in a pattern designed to trap him. He was somehow already moving through the one gap that existed for a fraction of a second. Level 8 complete, advancing to Level 9. "Get HIM out of there," Ara shouted. The technician's fingers flew over the controls. The emergency protocols aren't responding. The system thinks it's still running a valid test. Processor usage, 94%. Shirt was soaked with sweat now. His muscles burned, but his body kept moving with that same impossible efficiency, always one step ahead, always in the right place at the right time. Then something happened that no one had ever seen before. The system stopped generating threats. For 3 seconds, stood alone in the empty white chamber, breathing hard, wondering if the test was over. Then every single threat the system had generated in the last 9 levels appeared at once. The observation room's windows darkened automatically to protect the observers from the light of 100 simultaneous explosions. Alarms screamed. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors. When the windows cleared, Ara expected to see nothing but smoke and error messages. Instead, she saw standing in the center of the chamber, perfectly still, arms at his sides. Around him, frozen in midair, were dozens of holographic threats. Blades, bullets, energy beams, explosives, all of them hovering motionless, forming a sphere of death at the exact center. "What happened?" someone whispered. The technician's voice was barely audible. The system tried to hit him with everything at once. He moved to the only point in the entire chamber where nothing could reach him. The probability of finding that position by chance is, the math doesn't work. He couldn't have calculated it. There wasn't time. Then how? Aura asked. Before anyone could answer, the frozen threats vanished. The lights in the chamber flickered once, twice, then went dark. Every screen in the observation room turned red. The same message appeared on all of them, repeating over and over. Subject response EXCEDS theoretical maximum. Hardware limitation REACHED. Neural interface unable to process input. Causality violation DETECTED. Test invalid. Emergency shutdown initiated. In the darkness of the chamber, stood and waited for someone to open the door. He didn't think he'd done particularly well. The test had felt chaotic, poorly designed. He'd scored better in training simulations back on Earth. When the door finally opened, Aura stood there with all four arms hanging limp at her sides. Behind her, a dozen instructors stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Did I fail?" asked. Aura's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Finally she managed, "Cadet, you didn't fail the test, you broke it." "I broke it." The reflex testing chamber has been in operation for 312 years. It has successfully tested over 2 million cadets from 847 species. You are the first being ever to exceed its processing capacity. She paused, looking at him with an expression he couldn't read. "What are you?" Wiped sweat from his forehead. "I'm just human, sir." Behind Aura, the head technician was staring at his tablet, reading damage reports. "Sir," he said quietly, "the neural interface processor is fried. The quantum prediction cores are burned out. The gravitational generators cracked their housings. The holographic projectors, they melted. The system tried to run at 107% capacity. That's not supposed to be possible." Aura turned back to, "You will report to medical for a full examination. Then you will report to my office. We need to understand what just happened here." "Yes, sir." As walked past her, Aura caught his arm. "Cadet, answer me honestly. Were you trying to break the system?" Looked confused. "No, sir, I was just doing the test." After he left, Aura stood in the doorway of the ruined chamber and wondered what the humans had been hiding from the rest of the galaxy. Part 2. The medical examination took 4 hours. Sat in the scanning chamber while machines analyzed every part of his body. Brain activity, nervous system response, muscle density, reaction time, everything. Doctor, the head medical officer, was. His people looked like tall, thin plants that had decided to walk upright. He studied the results with 3 of his smaller branches, tapping thoughtfully against the display screen. "Fascinating," he muttered for the 17th time. "Is something wrong?" asked. "Wrong? No, nothing is wrong. You're completely healthy. Slightly above average fitness for a human your age. Neural conductivity is normal. Muscle composition is normal. Everything is normal." "Then why do you keep saying fascinating?" Doctor turned to face him. "Because according to every measurement we have, you are an average human. But average humans don't break military testing equipment that was designed to challenge beings with nervous systems 10 times faster than yours." Didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. "Tell me," Doctor continued, "do you have any genetic modifications? Any cybernetic enhancements? Anything that might explain your performance?" "No, sir, I'm natural born, no mods." Doctor made a note on his tablet. "You're cleared medically, but I'll be sending this data to the xenobiology department. They might want to ask you some questions." "Am I in trouble?" "Trouble? No, but you've created quite a stir. The reflex chamber breaking isn't just expensive, it's unprecedented. People want to understand how it happened." Left medical and headed to Instructor Ara's office. He'd only been there once before on his first day at the academy. It was a large space with windows overlooking the training grounds. Ara sat behind her desk, all 4 arms folded, watching him as he entered. "Sit," she said. Sad. I've been an instructor here for 23 years, Ara began. I've trained thousands of cadets. Some went on to become admirals. Some became heroes in the war. Some were exceptional warriors. But in all that time, I've never had to call an emergency meeting of the senior faculty because of a single cadet's test results. I'm sorry, sir. Don't apologize. I'm not angry. I'm confused. And I need you to help me understand what happened in that chamber. Shifted in his seat. I just did what the test asked me to do, avoid the threats. Yes, but how? The system's analysis shows you were moving before threats fully materialized. You were reacting to things that hadn't happened yet. That's not possible. I wasn't reacting to things that hadn't happened. I was reacting to things that were about to happen. That's the same thing. No, sir, it's not, it's prediction. Ara leaned forward. Explain. Thought about how to put it into words. When you see someone wind up to throw a punch, you don't wait until the punch is coming at your face to react. You move as soon as you see them wind up, right? Of course. That's what I was doing. The system would shift its gravity generators slightly before spawning a threat. The air pressure would change. The light would flicker in a certain pattern. I wasn't reacting to the threats themselves. I was reacting to the signs that threats were coming. Ara's secondary arms unfolded. The system is designed to eliminate those kinds of tells. The delays between preparation and execution are measured in microseconds. I know, but they're still there. Small changes in air movement, tiny flickers in the holographic projectors, the hum of the gravity generators changing pitch. Your brain picks up on patterns even when you're not consciously aware of them. That still doesn't explain how you found the safe position when the system attacked with everything at once. There were hundreds of threats from every angle. The mathematics required to calculate that position in real time would require quantum processors. Frowned, I didn't calculate anything. I just moved to where it felt safest. Felt safest? Yeah, it's like, struggled to find the words. It's like when you walk through a crowd. You don't think about every person and calculate the exact path to avoid them. You just flow through the gaps. Your brain does the math without you thinking about it. Ara stood and paced to the window. For a long moment she was silent, looking out at the training grounds where other cadets were running drills. I need to show you something, she said finally. Come with me. She led him through the corridors of the academy to a section had never been to before. The walls here were older, decorated with plaques and memorial stones. They stopped at a large display case containing what looked like ancient weapons and armor from dozens of different species. Do you know what this is? Ara asked, pointing to a particular piece of armor. No, sir. This belonged to commander and warrior who fought in the First Contact Wars 300 years ago. He was considered the greatest fighter of his generation, undefeated in single combat, a legend among my people. She paused. Do you know how he died? Shook his head. He was shot by a human soldier, a private, no rank, no particular reputation. It was their first day of combat. The human shouldn't have even been able to hit him, had reflexes 3 times faster than any human, but the report says the human fired before moved, as if she knew where he would dodge before he did. Ara turned to face directly. That incident was written off as luck, but over the years there have been other incidents, small things, battle reports that don't quite make sense, humans winning fights they should have lost, humans surviving situations that should have killed them. Always the explanation is luck or determination or human stubbornness. But what if it's something else? What do you mean? I mean, what if humans have an ability we've never properly recognized? What if your species processes threats differently than everyone else? Before could respond, both their communicators chimed. A message flashed across the screens. All relevant personnel report to conference room 7 immediately. Admiral presiding. That's the Academy Commandant, Ara said. This is serious. They walked quickly through the corridors. Other instructors were converging on the same destination. When they entered the conference room, was surprised to see it was packed. Instructors, technicians, medical staff, and several people he didn't recognize wearing the insignias of the Galactic Navy's research division. Admiral stood at the head of the table. He was massive and powerful, with armored plates covering most of his body. He looked at with eyes that had seen countless battles. "Cadet," the Admiral said, "do you know why you're here?" "No, sir." "You've created a significant problem. The reflex testing chamber you broke will cost nearly 2 million credits to repair. More importantly, its destruction has raised questions about the validity of every test we've ever conducted on human cadets." He gestured to the wall display, which lit up with data. "These are the test results from every human who's attended this academy in the last 50 years. All of them scored in the average range. Respectable but unremarkable." "Yes, sir." "After analyzing the damage to the reflex chamber, our technicians believe the system was fundamentally incapable of properly testing humans. It was designed for species that react to threats after detecting them. But the data from your test suggests something different." One of the research division officers stood. She was, her crystalline body refracting the light into rainbow patterns. "My name is Prism of Dawn. I maintain the testing systems for the entire academy. Cadet, I need to ask you some questions." "Okay." "During the test, were you consciously aware of reacting before threats appeared?" "Not really, I was just moving." "But you told Instructor Ara that you were reading preparatory signals from the system. Is that accurate?" "Yes, ma'am." "Here's what I don't understand. The system's preparation phase operates in the microsecond range. Human eyes can't perceive changes that fast. Human brains can't process information that quickly. Yet you were responding to those changes. How?" "Thought about it. I don't think I was perceiving each individual change. I think my brain was putting together lots of tiny pieces of information and forming a pattern. Like, when you hear someone walking behind you, you don't hear every individual footstep consciously, but you know someone's there. Your brain builds a complete picture from incomplete information." Prism of Dawn's facets glittered. "That's not how most species work. Most species need complete information before responding. They see a threat, process it, then react. You're describing a process where reaction begins during the information gathering phase, based on probabilistic assessment rather than concrete data." "I guess." Another research officer spoke up. "We pulled Earth's biological records. Humans evolved as both predators and prey on a world with thousands of dangerous species. Your environment required constant threat assessment. Fight or flight responses triggered by incomplete information. Pattern recognition systems that err on the side of caution. An entire neurology built around the principle that it's better to react to a threat that might not be real than to fail to react to a threat that is." "We call it paranoia," said. "It's pretty common among humans." "It's not paranoia," Prism of Dawn said firmly. "It's predictive threat modeling happening at a subconscious level. Your species doesn't just react to the present. You're constantly simulating multiple possible futures and preparing your body to respond to all of them simultaneously." The room went quiet. Admiral spoke again. "If this is true, if all humans possess this ability, then we've been systematically your species for the entire duration of your membership in the Galactic Union. Our testing systems were designed to measure reaction to concrete threats, but humans don't wait for threats to become concrete." "What does this mean?" Ara asked. "It means," the Admiral said slowly, "that we need to rebuild our testing protocols from the ground up, and it means we need to our understanding of human combat capabilities." He turned to, "Cadet, you're being reassigned. You'll be working with the research division for the next 3 months. We're going to design new tests specifically for human neurology, tests that don't break when you use them." Felt a mix of pride and nervousness. "Yes, sir." "Dismissed," Except you, Prism of Dawn. We need to discuss budget allocation for this project. As everyone filed out, caught fragments of conversations around him. Instructors questioning their evaluations. Technicians discussing design specifications. Medical officers debating neurological data. Outside the conference room, Aura stopped him. Cadet, I want you to know something. When you first arrived at this academy, I looked at your test scores and made assumptions. I saw average numbers and concluded you were an average cadet. I was wrong. Not because the numbers were wrong, but because we were measuring the wrong things. I'm still just average, sir. No, she said firmly. You're average by human standards, but human standards we're beginning to realize are not what we thought they were. She placed one of her 4 hands on his shoulder. Whatever they discover in these tests, whatever they learn about your species, remember this. You didn't break that chamber through some accident or fluke. You broke it by being exactly what evolution designed you to be, a survivor. Part 3. 3 months later, stood in front of a completely new testing chamber. It looked nothing like the old one. The walls were lined with processors that hummed with barely contained power, gravity generators strong enough to simulate a gas giant's pull, holographic projectors that could create solid-like constructs. The viewing window was reinforced, and the observation room behind it was packed with people. This time wasn't alone. 3 other human cadets stood with him, Sarah, Devin Price, and all of them had volunteered for the new testing program. All of them had scored average on the old system just like. Also in the chamber were cadets from 6 other species. The best of the best. A scout who'd set records for visual tracking. A warrior whose reflexes were literally superhuman by human standards. A whose nervous system operated partially through quantum entanglement, allowing for reaction times measured in microseconds. Admiral's voice came through the speakers. This is a unique test. We're not measuring individual performance today. We're testing something different, integrated threat response in mixed species units. You'll be working as a team. Prism of Dawn took over the explanation. The old system tried to test reflexes in isolation, but combat doesn't work that way. Combat is chaos. Multiple threats, incomplete information, split-second decisions made by groups, not individuals. So we've built a new paradigm. The chamber hummed to life. This test doesn't have levels. It has one objective: survive for 30 minutes. The system will generate threats continuously. You'll need to work together, use each other's strengths, and compensate for each other's weaknesses. Are you ready? The 10 cadets looked at each other. The non-human cadets had uncertain expressions. They trained for individual excellence, not teamwork with species they barely understood. Ready, said for all of them. Beginning test. The first threats appeared immediately. Not the slow buildup of the old system, but a sudden assault from multiple directions. Energy beams, holographic projectiles, gravity wells that tried to pull them off balance. The moved first, his quantum-fast reflexes letting him deflect 3 threats in the time it took to register they existed. The superior strength let her rip a gravity anchor from the floor that would have trapped the others. The compound eyes tracked 17 different threat vectors simultaneously, calling out warnings. But within 30 seconds, the non-human cadets were struggling. The threats came too fast, too chaotic. There was no pattern to predict, no rhythm to follow. That's when the humans moved. Sarah, Devin, and spread out through the chamber, not in a planned formation but in a pattern that emerged naturally. They weren't reacting to the threats directly. They were flowing into the spaces where threats weren't, pulling the others with them. Left, Sarah called, and the moved without questioning, finding himself suddenly safe from 3 converging beams he hadn't even seen. Down, Devin shouted, and the entire group dropped flat as a wave of explosive projectiles passed overhead. The non-human cadets realized something strange was happening. The humans weren't just faster or stronger. They were predicting where threats would appear before the system had fully committed to spawning them. And somehow, they were sharing that information. 5 minutes in, the chamber increased the difficulty. Threats no longer came from predictable angles. They curved mid-flight. They split into multiple projectiles. They worked in coordinated patterns designed to trap and overwhelm. The humans adapted. Caught himself moving in sync with Sarah without any verbal communication. His eyes flicked left, hers flicked right, and they both shifted their weight, creating a safe corridor for Devon to pull the through. It wasn't telepathy. It was something more fundamental. Years of evolution teaching them to read body language, to predict movement, to coordinate without speaking. "They're networking," Prism of Dawn said from the observation room. "Look at their neural patterns." The display showed brain activity for all 10 cadets. The non-human patterns were sharp and distinct, each one isolated. But the 4 human patterns were oscillating in sync, their brain waves forming complementary patterns like musicians improvising together. "How are they doing that?" someone asked. "Micro-expressions, body language, subconscious communication through movement and positioning. They're not sharing information consciously. They're sharing it the way a flock of birds turns together without a leader, distributed processing." 10 minutes in, the system threw something new. It analyzed the humans' prediction patterns and tried to exploit them. It created false signals, fake preparation phases that led to nothing, threats that appeared where the patterns suggested safety. The humans stumbled. For a few seconds, chaos erupted. Nearly got hit by a beam he'd thought would veer left but went straight. Sarah dodged into a trap that shouldn't have been there. Then laughed. It was so unexpected that everyone paused. In the middle of this deadly test, being hammered by threats from all sides, one of the humans was laughing. "It's learning us," she shouted. "It's trying to fake us out." And just like that, the humans adapted again. Instead of predicting where threats would go, they started predicting the system's predictions. Second-order thinking. Not just, where will the threat be, but where does the system think I think the threat will be, and how can I exploit that? The non-human cadets could only watch in amazement as the humans turned the chamber into a dance. They weren't fighting the test anymore. They were playing with it. 15 minutes in, noticed something else. The non-human cadets were starting to sync with the human patterns. The wasn't relying on his quantum-fast reactions anymore. He was watching shoulders, the slight tension that appeared half a second before moved, and using that as an early warning system. There was matching her breathing to Sarah's, somehow knowing that Sarah's rhythm would lead her to safety. They were learning to see the future the way humans did. Not through better hardware, but through better pattern recognition. 20 minutes in, the system made its mistake. It tried to create an impossible scenario. Threats from every angle, every vector, timed to arrive simultaneously at the center of the chamber where the group was clustered. The humans saw it coming. "Scatter on 3, said calmly. "Trust fall." "What's a trust fall?" the asked, panicked. "You'll see, 1, 2, 3. The 4 humans moved in 4 different directions, each one grabbing a non-human cadet and pulling them along. They didn't move to safe positions. They moved to positions that would become safe based on how the other humans moved. It was 3-dimensional chess played at combat speed, with lives as the pieces. The threats converged on empty space. The 10 cadets stood at the edges of the chamber, perfectly positioned in the only spots where nothing could reach them. The system paused. For almost 5 seconds, no new threats appeared. "Did we break it again?" Devon asked. "No," Prism of Dawn's voice came through the speakers. "It's recalculating. You just did something the system marked as impossible." The test continued, but something had changed. The system wasn't trying to defeat them anymore. It was trying to understand them. Each new wave of threats was an experiment, testing different aspects of human predictive ability. At 25 minutes, the humans were exhausted. Sweat poured down their faces. Their muscles shook from constant movement, but they kept going, kept predicting, kept surviving. The non-human cadets were in better physical shape, but they were mentally drained from trying to keep up with the chaotic pattern matching the humans were doing. At 28 minutes, the system deployed its final test. It removed all subtle signals. No gravity generator hum, no holographic flicker, no air pressure changes, pure randomness, threats spawning with true quantum uncertainty. For the first time, the humans couldn't predict. They fell back on something else. Worst-case scenarios said, call them out. Beam from above right, splash damage, Sarah said immediately. Projectile from below, explosive yield, Devon added. Gravity well, northeast quadrant, pull strength 8, finished. None of those threats existed yet, but within 3 seconds, all 3 appeared exactly as described. How? They asked, amazed. We didn't predict what would happen, explained, dodging a blade while he talked. We predicted what could happen, every possible threat. Then we prepared for all of them. That's insane. There are thousands of possibilities. Yeah, Sarah agreed cheerfully, pulling him out of the path of an explosive. So we practice thinking about thousands of things we're afraid of all the time. It's exhausting. Welcome to being human. At 30 minutes exactly, the test ended. All threats vanished. The lights came up. The 10 cadets stood in various states of exhaustion, but all of them were unharmed. The chamber door opened and Admiral walked in, followed by Prism of Dawn and 24 other officers. That, the Admiral said slowly, was the most extraordinary display of combat coordination I have seen in 40 years of military service. Prism of Dawn was practically vibrating with excitement, her crystalline facets throwing rainbow patterns everywhere. You didn't just pass the test. You taught the system new tactics. It logged 17 different survival strategies it had never seen before. All of them are being added to our tactical database. Did we break this one too? Asked tiredly. No, but only because we built it strong enough to keep up with you. She pulled up a display. The system ran at 97% capacity for the last 5 minutes. That's the highest sustained load it was designed to handle. Any more and yes, you would have broken this one too. Admiral addressed all 10 cadets. What you demonstrated today changes everything we thought we knew about mixed-species combat units. The human ability to predict threats, combined with non-human physical capabilities, created something greater than the sum of its parts. He turned specifically to the 4 humans. For 3 months, we've been studying your species' neurology. We've learned that humans don't just react faster to certain threats. You react earlier. You live in a state of constant probability assessment. Every human does this, every moment of every day running simulations of terrible things that might happen. It's called anxiety, said. We have medications for it. A few people laughed. Perhaps, the Admiral continued, but in combat that anxiety becomes an asset. You're not worried about things that might happen. You're prepared for them. He gestured to the chamber. This test was designed to be nearly impossible. We expected maybe a 20% success rate. You achieved 100% success, and you made it look manageable. Ara stepped forward. There's something else you should know. In the 3 months since broke the original testing chamber, we've been quietly retesting human cadets using adjusted protocols. Protocols that account for predictive capabilities rather than reactive ones. She pulled up a screen filled with data. Every single human we retested scored significantly higher. What we thought was average performance was actually exceptional performance hampered by inadequate testing methods. We've been systematically underestimating your entire species. Felt strange, pride mixed with confusion. What does this mean for us? It means, Admiral said, that the Galactic Navy's training doctrine is being rewritten. Human-centric threat assessment will be taught to all cadets. Mixed-species units with humans as tactical coordinators will become standard. And most importantly, humans will no longer be seen as average soldiers who make up for limitations with determination. He smiled, which was unsettling Anna.